This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Harry's. For guys like you who want a great shave experience at a fraction of what you're paying. Go to harrys.com and get $5 off your first purchase by entering the code WhatTheTech when you check out.
What the Tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm AJ Zarin. Of course, I'm joined by Mr. Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good.
Are you sure? Are you positive?
Yeah, no, I'm not really. No,
not really.
Positive.
You've had a very eventful couple days.
Yep.
Is everything okay now? Everything settled?
Yep, everything's good.
Excellent. Normally I do show notes, and Paul does show notes sometimes. And Paul actually suggested this week's topic, and I did not write show notes because this is a very controversial topic. Something that happened this week in the world of Windows and Microsoft, and I want to spend a good portion of the show discussing this. Fiasco, if you will. A fiasco. I mean, that's a proper term for this issue, right? A fiasco?
Yes, I think no matter where you choose to lay the blame, fiasco is occurring. Yeah.
It's a total fiasco. Good name for the show. But before we do that, guys, I want to talk about our sponsor, and a sponsor that we've had for a long time. And of course, it's Harry's. Paul uses Harry's razors. I use a Harry's razor. Paul, is it weird that I've probably changed my blade once? Because I don't require like a really thorough shave because I got the beard going.
Sure.
So I just do like cleanups, but this thing lasts forever. Harry's came on as an advertiser with us for a while ago, and I was like, oh, great, okay, they're a razor. How much better can they be? I was using these cheapo, chic, just like really thin double blade razors, and they worked great. But the more I use them, I was using them for like 15 years, and the more I use them, the more I notice that they're not making them the way that they used to. These razors are dull after one shave, and they're disposable. Of course, that's what they want you to do, right? They want you to go into the store and constantly buy it. They think you're getting a great deal because you're spending less for like 12 of them. But in the long run, you realize you're throwing these out every time you shave. With Harry's, it's all about quality with these guys. You could buy their sets. You could buy individual razors. You could buy replacement heads. It's unbelievable. And the cool thing about the company is that it was started by two guys that really hated what they were buying in the stores. And on top of that, they're doing so well now. They give 1% of the sales and 1% of the time back to the communities that they serve. So these guys are they're great people over there. It's made in Germany, the highest quality blades. What can I say about it? I've been using them for so long, and I know many of our viewers have been using it, and they have a great ad for you guys. Harrys.com, that's HARRYS.com. If you use the code WhatTheTech at checkout, you get $5 off when you place your first order with them. They got phenomenal things on there. They got shaving sets. They got the Winston. They got the Truman. I think you have the Truman, right? Or do you have the Winston? I think you have the Truman.
I don't even know the name of it. I have the army green plastic.
Oh, you have the Winston. You have the Winston.
Winston. Okay, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. I have the Truman. So phenomenal blades, phenomenal people. There's so much that I could say about them, and I have already. If you want a great shave for a fraction of the cost, go to harrys.com and use offer code WhatTheTech at checkout and get $5 off your first purchase. Thank you, Harrys, for supporting What the Tech. So, Paul, let's go into this. What happened last week?
It's like all I've been thinking about.
Yeah, what happened last week?
Yeah, my Friday imploded when this happened.
So it was weird that it came out on a Friday, right?
Yeah, somebody observed to me that Microsoft doesn't announce anything on a Friday unless it's bad news.
Yeah.
So that may or may not be the case. But let me bring up the original post because it's kind of interesting how they word this. I didn't link to the original post. That's why. Let me find the original post. So Microsoft on Friday, and by the way, on Friday, I mean like 2:30 in the afternoon on Friday, issued a blog post called Windows 10 Embracing Silicon Innovation. And what they're talking about is how Windows 10 supports all of the latest features in new chipsets. So like the Intel Skylake, processor and chipset, kind of the system on a chip
Yeah.
that thing is. And, okay, fine. I mean, they do these things from time to time. If you want, access to the new types of graphics that are possible, to USB 3.1, to Thunderbolt, to all the other crazy stuff you can do on that hardware platform. Cool. Nothing to it. This is not. I mean, I'd probably write about it because I write about everything Microsoft does, but not very interesting. But then it kind of takes this interesting turn where they start talking about business customers and how this in some way impacts them, because it doesn't seem to have anything to do with business customers. But and then right at the end of the blog post, they have this couple paragraphs about Windows 7 and Windows 8.1. And what it kind of boils down to is that Windows 7 in particular was designed long enough ago that, it really doesn't have any inherent understanding of these modern processors and chipsets. That the situation today from a hardware perspective has really changed fairly dramatically, which is certainly fair. And as a result, they're only going to support Windows 7 and 8.1 to a lesser extent, because frankly, very few businesses care about Windows 8.1 for businesses in a very limited way on Skylake. In other words, if you are a business of whatever size and you have X number of users, and some of them are on these computers and some are on these, and so whatever it is, and you're upgrading and you go to Skylake, they really want you to go to Windows 10.
Sure.
But they also understand, and we should say, and actually maybe people don't understand this, one of the things you get with Windows Pro and above is downgrade rights. Okay. And so when you as an individual, or more likely you as a business, buys this product, you also get the ability to downgrade to any supported version of Windows. And these days, what that means is a lot of businesses are downgrading to Windows 7, right? They'll buy a new Windows 8.1 PC, and today a new Windows 10 PC, and they'll downgrade to Windows 7. And they don't do that because there's something wrong with Windows 8.1 or 10 or whatever. It's it's for having a standard OS image across all of the devices. It's because they don't want to retrain users. They don't want to have some users on one system and some on another. They want everything to be the same. I mean, there are valid reasons and there are other reasons, but they have their reasons, whatever they may be. And that's been something Microsoft has supported in Windows. I don't remember exactly how long, but I would say probably dating back to Windows XP timeframe. Sounds like the type of thing they would have implemented around then. It's a feature of it's a feature of Windows 8 Pro, or Windows Pro, I should say. The thing is, Skylake, for some reason, appears to introduce a particular problem with supporting older versions of Windows. And again, they talk about how long ago Windows 7 was created. I think you and I had mentioned or discussed earlier the notion that Windows 7 was in many ways a service pack to Windows Vista, from sort of like a hardware support perspective. It's not a new platform. It was based on Windows 7 couldn't have happened without Windows Vista. Windows Vista, the development of that started back in 2001, 2002, maybe at the latest.
Yeah, very long time ago.
Really long time ago. They didn't actually ship the product until very late 2006, because of the various issues they had with that system. But regardless, I mean, that technology had been around a while. We've moved in subsequent years from BIOS to EFI and UEFI, and the hardware capabilities have just exponentially expanded. I mean, everything is different. So the controversial bit to this, to me, was just that for the first time ever, Microsoft has changed the support policy for a version of Windows that is currently supported. They've never done that before. Everyone knows, or most people probably know, versions of Windows that are supported in business get a 10-year life cycle. So 5 years of mainstream support, 5 years of extended support. During mainstream support, Microsoft could add new features to the OS. They often don't, frankly, but that's the time period when you're going to get your service packs. Back in the day, they don't do that anymore, but back in the day they did. And a service pack would roll up a bunch of previous updates, some of which could be functional, some of which could just be fixes, security fixes or whatever kind of fixes. And then the final 5 years of support, extended support, you're really only getting updates, primarily security updates, and frankly, primarily critical security updates. You're not getting new features, that kind of thing. This changes the support life cycle for Windows 7 and Windows 8.1, but on Skylake hardware only. And what they're going to do is on very specific hardware configurations from PC makers. So there'll be a list someday. We have a very short preliminary list today, but there'll be what I expect to be a very, very big list of specific PC models that Microsoft will support for Windows 7 or Windows 8.1 on Skylake-based systems, but only for 18 months. And so I think that works out to be, I think it was July 2017.
July 2017, yeah.
So what that means is a business, typically, I think an individual, well, this is for businesses, actually. This is very specifically for businesses. An individual, no, I keep saying an individual, I'm sorry, a business.
A business.
would buy, this is not an individual, would buy a PC based on Skylake. It's on the certified list. They want to run Windows 7 most likely, but maybe Windows 8.1 for whatever reason. We don't care why. This is what happens in the real world. Let's not worry about it. Microsoft will support that for 18 months. After those 18 months are over, they expect that company to upgrade that system to Windows 10. If they don't, I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. I'm rereading this because it's
on a side note, did you see the article that they're saying that it will support it? PC World put out an article this morning saying the new chips are tuned for Windows 10, though it will work, but it's just tuned better for Windows 10. That's how they're wording it now.
No. By the way, right. So it's don't misunderstand what's happening here. You could arbitrarily, as an individual, buy a Skylake CPU, put it on a motherboard, add RAM, add a hard drive, boot the thing into Windows 7. It would probably work. The issue is that isn't like outright compatibility. It's all of the little things, which aren't really that little. Support for 4K, support for USB 3.1, support for Thunderbolt, support for whatever it is. These unique features of Skylake. You're not going to get all that stuff, and I think that's what PC World or whatever is alluding
with Skylake. And then but Kaby Lake, which I had no idea that this existed.
I know, I didn't either.
Prior to all of this, would only support Windows 10. So if you have chipset, if you have that chipset and you go to install Windows 7, that's not going to happen.
Well, so we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit with that one, but yes, right.
We'll go back to that.
I think it's important to sort of think about how this impacts individuals, because I keep saying individuals because I kind of want to jump on that a little bit. Us as individuals, we're people, we're normal people. You or I might want to build a computer, and I know you did recently, and you had some issues with the Skylake processor, for example. How does this impact individuals? Microsoft's support policy update, Microsoft's announcement about this stuff very specifically is about businesses. I don't think it's impossible, but I also don't think there are many instances where an individual went to HP or to Dell or to Lenovo, companies that sell business class PCs, bought a brand new, on new hardware device, new PC, and said, I want to downgrade this to Windows 7. I think technically, they would, I don't know that this is like a business only feature. I think technically they'd have to, they don't actually have to support it on individual models, but I think they could support it. I just don't know how that works. But let's say you bought the components like we were talking, and you wanted to build your own computer, and you wanted to run Windows 7, and you bought Windows 7 at retail at some point, 2 years ago or today, it doesn't matter. And could you install Windows 7 on that computer? Absolutely, right? It would be up to you to go and research the drivers and make sure they were all there, that kind of thing. The thing that's really interesting about this change is that, there's a lot of interesting things about it. But of course, I should just to kind of step back. I mean, I look at Microsoft the way that I look at Microsoft. I've been covering Microsoft professionally for 20 years. It's fair to say that many things at Microsoft are very different right now than they had been in the past. Microsoft right now is very aggressively pushing this Windows 10 upgrade. They really want people, individuals and businesses, to upgrade to this thing as quickly as possible for good reasons, right? I mean, I think we can all agree, whether or not you want to be, force-fed Windows 10, that there are legitimate reasons for Microsoft to want this. They're not trying to make money off of it. I think that's an important point. They're giving it away for free. They really want people on Windows 10. It will create a more secure internet. it will be create a stronger Windows platform. It's really is for the greater good.
And so far, it's been, I mean, quite successful with getting people to go over there with, some aggressive tactics and some just incentives that they've given people. Like, hey, guys, you could upgrade for free,
Yep.
It has been a success, whether
Oh,
you agree with their methods or not,
Sure. No, and they also want to show the strength of Windows in an era that, frankly, has turned largely to the types of mobile devices on which Windows either doesn't run or is not successful. And so, if they can show the world, whether it's just as sort of a PR thing or they want to show developers because they want them to develop apps or whatever, that there are X number of 100 million of people running Windows 10 for real in the real world, or someday a billion people, or someday more than a billion people, whatever it is. It's understandable why they want this to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I look at this blog post and it's about Windows 10. Supposedly, that's what it says. It says Windows 10 embracing silicon innovation. It should come as no surprise that Windows 10, the newest version of Windows from Microsoft, supports the latest features in the latest hardware. Like, that's always been the case.
Yeah.
Every version of Windows supports some features that are not supported in the previous version of Windows. That's how this works. That has not changed. And you sort of wonder why would they choose to communicate this right now?
Yeah.
And really the reason is when you get down to the bottom.
Well, when they communicated, it was bizarre, right? Because they initially said that it was for, it was targeted towards business.
Yes.
That's how they kind of did it, but it's going to impact everybody. But in the regards of
yes, yeah, well, it will and it won't, right? So, like I said, we could, if we wanted to buy the components and build our own PC. I don't actually think a lot of people do that. Most individuals go into a store or go on to Amazon.com or whatever and buy a computer, and so as has often been the case in the past, you buy a computer, you get whatever version of Windows comes on it. If you're buying a new Skylake PC, you're going to get Windows 10. And I don't think most people would have expectations otherwise. I don't think most people would want to go back to Windows 7, even if they could because of the hassle of it. Doesn't matter, but I mean, I think that is most people. So, they kind of presented this as a business thing. Okay, that's fine. But I saw this through the light of Microsoft and Windows 10 and how they're kind of force-feeding Windows 10 on people. And while I do agree that Windows 10 is good for the industry, and I love Windows 10, and I do believe that people should move, if they can, to Windows 10 as quickly as possible. I get that. I also, on the flip side, sort of feel like their tactics are a little heavy-handed in the way that they're preloading Windows 10 on people's computers. They've secretly installed Windows 10 in some cases when people didn't know. They wake up one day and they have Windows 10.
Well, that happened to me. But what do you mean by the preloading?
Well, in other words, to give people a better experience installing Windows 10, they'll silently download the update in the background. And so one day you'll get a little pop-up that says, "Hey, by the way, you should upgrade to Windows 10 right now." You can make the argument, and Microsoft does, that by pre-downloading the setup routine, if the person says yes, it will happen immediately, and that will be a much better experience.
Well, what it does, it says, "Do you want to upgrade now or do you want to upgrade later?" If you hit it later, it's going to upgrade it later, literally later for you. If you hit X, but most people aren't going to do that. They're going to hit later if they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And it turns out...
this is coincidental, but I got an email today from a reader who said, I don't have broadband where I live, and so I share my phone connection. I use it as a hotspot at home. And I just bought 2 Windows 10 home computers. Brought them home, used them for a month, and then I got a warning message from my ISP because I've gone over my limit for data. And it's really expensive when that happens. And what he found out was that Windows 10 had downloaded Windows 10 was, this is not actually OS upgrades. It was just downloading updates in the background. Another thing that Windows 10 does that's sort of semi-controversial. And he says, if this is the way Windows 10 behaves, I can't keep these computers. I can't be downloading this amount of stuff every month.
Yeah.
And I said, well, good news. I mean, as it turns out, in that case, you can fix it because Windows 10, you can configure the connection as a metered connection, in which case it won't download updates until you're on Wi-Fi. Okay, so that's how I saw it. Since then, I've been really thinking about this and thinking about the timing of this, and remember back to October. Microsoft announced Surface Book and Surface Pro 4. These were the first Skylake-based computers to ship in the world. Microsoft has had an incredible set of reliability issues with these computers. They
Interesting,
have
right?
USB issues. They have those Screen Connect issues, and Surface Connect is a USB-based bus. So let's call it USB, but the screen disconnect issue, power management issues, very serious. Skylake supports a new kind of very deep sleep power state that, of course, Surface supports, and that's causing all kinds of screw-ups. Intel display issues, display driver issues, and probably some other ones I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head. Isn't it interesting that Microsoft, the company that was the first company to ship Skylake-based computers, is having these problems, right? Some of the problems are replicated across other PCs. We see the Intel display driver issue, for example, on various computers from various companies. I know the HP X360 has it. So one naturally has to wonder, is it Skylake? Is Skylake is there something wrong with Skylake? So I've had some conversations with people, and some of them have been on the record. And so let me tell you some of the stuff I can say that I think is very interesting. I talked to a guy from HP, for example, Mike Nash, and he told me a bunch of stuff. Actually, we talked about downgrade rights, for example. He first of all thinks that this is not a huge deal. He thinks that this is all going to work out fine. It's not a really serious difference between any previous processor transition. And I think that's good news for people who are kind of worried about this stuff. He also says that on the good news front, one of the interesting things that's going to happen is that HP and other PC makers have always certified their computers so that they worked on previous versions of Windows, but they only provided the information about which ones were certified to Microsoft. So because of this change in support for Windows 7 and Windows 8.1, HP and all the other PC makers will, for the first time, be providing that information publicly. What does that mean to you?
Yeah.
It means that if you own a copy of Windows 7 and you buy an HP, whatever, I don't want to say the model number because I'm not really sure which ones work. Whatever it is, you can know by looking at a list if that machine is certified for Windows 7. And if it is, that means you can safely install Windows 7 on that computer and get all the drivers you need and everything will work.
So this is actually the first time that's possibly ever going to happen, because generally the mentality is, well, if it runs Windows 10, of course it'll run Windows 7. Yeah, you can just downgrade to whatever. Think about it. Yeah.
Yep. So now I just want to, because this is in some ways a big and weird and kind of scary event, but it's interesting talking to Mike. He said there really are some good aspects to this. He also said that, in Microsoft's case, you might want to argue that they kind of bit off more they could chew with the Surface Book stuff. And I had made the case. I think we talked about this earlier, you and I. I think Microsoft really wanted to be first out the gate with Skylake, and I think they kind of paid the price with that a little bit, because previous versions of Surface Pro devices were always like a generation behind on the Intel platform scale. And I think this time they wanted to stop taking the abuse from enthusiasts about that and be right out there on the leading edge. But, remember, Surface Book, right? New hardware. It's brand new hardware. Brand new chipset, Skylake. Brand new OS, Windows 7, right? It's like three things that they bit off at once. When I was talking to Mike, he was talking about the X360, which is that great, aluminum, flip around transforming laptop. And he said, when they released that first version back early last year, it was Windows 8.1, known operating system. It was, I don't remember, Broadwell probably, or I think it was Haswell, known quantity on the hardware side, had been around a while, and it was a new hardware design. So they did one thing new. And then midstream in the fall last year, they released a special edition which supported Broadwell. Changed one thing. And now they're coming around with the new Rev, and now they've got Windows 10, and they've got Skylake, right? And they're trying to make like these measured steps. He said, in his view, he says, I think Microsoft might have done too much at once. Too many variables, and that's kind of an interesting perspective as well.
That is interesting.
But here's the other thing, without assessing blame, I guess what I would say is my initial knee-jerk reaction, and frankly, it's just I think a factor of the environment in which we're in today with Microsoft, again, force-feeding Windows 10 on people. It was to sort of believe that this was part of that behavior. I'm actually coming around to the notion that that's not really what this is about. However, it will in effect help this along, and will do so for the foreseeable future, because as you kind of pointed out, they're also talking about future processor generations, KB Lake,
Yeah.
which is the follow up to
Which will only run Windows
Skylake.
10 and I guess above.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in other words, going forward, now they've created a precedent. So we sort of talk about this historical change to the support lifecycle for Windows, which is absolutely true. The other thing they've done is set a precedent for the future.
Yeah.
And so when AMD upgrades their silicon to new processor versions, when Intel does with KB Lake and whatever the 10 nanometer thing that's coming after that is.
Yeah, I think this one is
When-
14. I think KB's 14 nanometer and whatever else is 10, right?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
I am not an expert.
I think KB
in
Lake is
hardware.
14.
I
yeah.
think you're right. Qualcomm, same thing on the
Yeah.
device side. Whatever it is, that they will only support that stuff now on the latest Windows version, which is Windows 10. Very interesting, because regardless of whether you want to blame Microsoft for this, blame Intel, however you want to look at it, the fact remains that for the future, they have established a system where
Yeah.
if you only knew, and like look, this is absolutely true across. This has been true across time, but let's just say for Windows 10, running the latest version of Windows with the latest hardware really is going to be the best experience.
Yeah. And we're not and it's not
overall.
and the confusion here, and I saw it miswritten and misinterpreted. If you have an older version, right? If you have Haswell or if you have Skylake, it's not that you can't run, like a lot of people saying, like, well, what happens if I have an older computer? Does that mean I can't run the latest version of the operating system? No.
Oh
No.
no.
It's for people with the latest hardware. You can't run old software.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Look, I mean, we can't really see the future. I mean, obviously companies like Dell and HP and Lenovo will continue to support older versions of Windows on new hardware as they can, as they always have. Because when you think about it, Microsoft's stance is like, look, we're only going to do the most critical security updates, which frankly is what all they ever do in extended support anyway. It's up to HP and Dell and Lenovo to kind of certify their machines and the specific hardware devices and the capabilities that are on that machine for older versions of Windows. This is what they've always done.
Yeah.
And so in this sense, nothing has really changed,
Well,
If
is
you
the
think
precedence
about-
being set for let's say future generations, right? Let's say whatever comes after KB Lake and whatever comes after that, and there's a new version of Windows coming out. Are they going to continue this where they say, well, you know what, the latest Thurrott Lake is coming out in 2020,
Yep.
and the latest version of Windows could only run the latest version of Windows on that chipset. You can't run Windows 10.
No, that's what they're doing. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
In other words, the side effect is that Microsoft will continue cramming Windows 10
Yeah.
down our throats because, that will be your only choice. But look, let's be honest. For individuals, that's always been the case. You're always going to get the newest version. That's what you want. With the exception of Windows 8, which was a bomb, everybody always wants the latest version of Windows. And Mike pointed out to me, actually, I have this laptop. It's a kind of like a Surface type device, right? Kickstand, keyboard case. It's USB-C only. That's the only expansion on it. It's a modern device. It does Windows Hello with the camera and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to run Windows 7 on that thing.
No.
No one would ever buy that and then put Windows 7 on it. It doesn't make sense. And I think that's sort of where Microsoft is thinking. We're talking about these devices that are amazing, that are modern and have all these awesome new features. You don't buy a brand new Ferrari and then put a 1972 Volkswagen Super Beetle engine in it because that's what everyone else is using at the company.
Yeah.
Like at some point, it just doesn't make sense. Obviously, for standard kind of lap type machines and blah blah blah, whatever, it's not going to really matter. But in these cases, if you for some reason you get like a standard, dumpy looking or frumpy looking, kind of laptop that runs Skylake somehow, it doesn't matter, right? Windows 7 probably runs fine on that kind of machine anyway. But I was really interested. Mike Nash told me that he didn't see that this processor transition was any more difficult than any other. That Microsoft can fix certain things in the OS and has to do that every time. The PC makers have to do this with every chip. every time. There's nothing new, and that's kind of talked me off the cliff a little bit because I really went through a bunch of stuff, especially on Friday.
Well, okay, so what was your biggest issue with this on Friday? Not now, but on Friday. What was your biggest
That
issue?
I saw this as an escalation of Microsoft's attempts to jam
Forcefulness,
Windows.
yeah.
Yes. Because the other thing, I think it was the same day, like that. I believe it was the same morning. If it wasn't, it was within 24 hours. Microsoft had just announced that for the first time, they were going to start shipping the Get Windows 10 Now, advertisement, the little tray thing, the notification,
Yeah.
to domain attached computers, meaning like
Small businesses.
small businesses, right?
Yeah.
Without getting into the technical details about who actually sees this kind of thing, let's just say small businesses is a great way to say it. But not just small businesses, because people own small businesses. You're a small business. You don't have an Active Directory domain in your office, and your friends probably don't either. And so for those guys, they were probably seeing this advertisement already because they just have people just have computers there. It's just, everyone owns their own computer, whatever it is. Small businesses that are actually using, and this, it's probably cloud-based, like something like Windows Intune or, System Center, Configuration Manager, or whatever, to manage a small environment. That's the foot in the door, right? When Microsoft starts jamming Windows 10 down businesses' throats, right, things get really interesting because it's bad enough they're doing it with individuals, but when they start going after businesses, I mean, that's an escalation, right? And so, all right, so that happened. I mean, there's no disputing it. That is happening. They're doing it. And then this thing came out, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's crazy. Like, this is like a 1-2 punch, for businesses. Like, we're going to make it really hard for you to use previous versions of Windows on new hardware, something they've never done before." And so I sort of saw that as the story, and I saw it as part of, their push to get Windows 10 out to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible.
So here's a quote from Microsoft that you have on Thurrott.com. Guys, if you haven't gone there, Thurrott.com, there is a great article explaining this called "Microsoft Finds Another Way to Force Windows 10 Upgrades on Businesses."
I semi-regret the Godfather promotional graph.
I think that's great, actually.
Sure.
What is it? Take the cannoli, leave the gun? Take the gun, leave the cannoli?
Yep.
Compared to Windows 7 PCs, Intel's latest generation processor chipset, Skylake, when combined with Windows 10, enables up to 30 times better graphics and 3 times the battery life.
Yeah, by the way.
What are you, an idiot? Why wouldn't you upgrade?
No, but by the way, that's a soft sell. Like, to me, that kind of thing is fine. When you say, look, we have this data, we can show it to you. It's real. Like, you really do get better battery life. You really do get, and by the way, forget Skylake specific stuff. Windows 10 security really is way better than security in Windows 7, which, again, originally architected 15 years ago. It's night and day. It just is. Windows 7 is very quickly going to get to the point that XP reached, which is a little overdue, a little past the due date, kind of overripe. It's a target. It's going to be less and less safe because time goes on. It's not because Windows 7 sucks. It's because
it's old.
Listen,
and we've hung on to Windows. I mean, people are hanging on to for Windows XP for many, many years, and still some people are. But like you said, Vista was originally created in 2001. Windows 7
started. I mean, it
started the build. Yeah. Windows 7 was a direct response of fixing Vista.
Yeah, and I've sort of I've written this a lot, but I just remind people, everyone holds Windows XP and Windows 7 in such great esteem, and I would say Windows 10 as well. It's important to remember in each of these cases that this OS was essentially a response to the dismal, maybe I shouldn't say that. It is a direct result of what came before it. Like, Windows XP couldn't have happened without Windows 2000. Windows 7 could never have happened without Windows Vista. And Windows 10 most assuredly never would have happened if it wasn't for Windows 8. In that case, it was a disaster. And in Vista's case, it was a disaster. Windows 2000 wasn't a disaster. But the underpinnings of that system really come from Windows 2000, which really was Windows NT, which really dates back to the late 1990s. So the notion of someone running Windows XP today is ludicrous. And of course, hundreds of millions of people probably still do it. I'm sure there's 100 whatever the figure was, 120, 140 million people actually run this system still today. Ridiculous. This is very dangerous. In the personal computing world, like these technologies move along really quickly. You wouldn't use a rotary dial phone. That's what Windows XP is. It's just it's stupid.
Windows XP, the rotary dialed phone of operating systems
of PCs. Yeah. So look, Windows 7 still supported. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're going to do what we can do for Windows 7, but it's
where my problem with this is with the forceful upgrades. So I have two machines here that run Windows 7, and I've gotten the pop-up saying, hey, you're a perfect candidate to go to Windows 10.
Yeah.
I know for a fact this computer will have issues going to Windows 10. It will be miserable running on Windows 10. That's where the forceful upgrades are a little bit of a problem, right? They're not as smart. Obviously they run through your hardware. They see that if this is compatible, this is new enough or old enough, whatever. I don't think it's that intelligent to determine how well it's going to work. Because two of these machines, one of them, I can tell you 100%, it should never upgrade to Windows 10. It's a netbook from 2009. The thing is a piece of crap, and I'm getting the message saying, hey, you're a perfect candidate. You should upgrade.
Right.
Imagine that happening in enterprise.
Well, imagine it happening to a non-technical person. At least someone in enterprise could probably figure it out. Like, there are instances where people choose or don't choose, but they go to Windows 10 from some version of Windows. They're like, well, great. I didn't want this, or it's not working out. I want to go back. Windows 10 offers that facility. They go to run the little utility that brings you back to Windows 7 or Windows 8.1, whatever you had before. And then that doesn't work. Now what? And that's the thing. Like I really give Microsoft a lot of credit because from a technical perspective, the Windows 10 upgrade is such a better experience overall than any previous versions of Windows. Windows upgrades were always so terrible. You would never advise a normal person to do it.
And listen,
Windows
Paul,
10,
even when it goes bad, right? Even when it goes bad, it's smart enough to revert back.
Yeah, right. You usually won't be stuck with something that doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's still a Windows upgrade, And if you can't go back to your previous version, if that's the thing that breaks, look, I wrote a book about this topic. I explain to people, here's exactly what you need to do to make sure you can always go back, that kind of stuff. I write about this stuff on my website. The truth is, normal people are not going to read this information. They're not going to go through the steps of creating all your restore disks and all that kind of stuff. You're on your own, right? Or running a full system backup and then restoring from the system image or whatever. These are processes that are understandable to technical people and to enterprises, so at least they can figure it out. Not for grandma, not for normal people. And that's part of the issue I have with Microsoft forcing this thing so strongly on people that if you could guarantee it was going to work, it still wouldn't be okay to force it on people, but they can't, and they're still forcing it on people, and that makes it worse.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you a story about someone in our chat room. Their mother, not really technical, was kind of scammed into the upgrade, where you just read it quickly and you hit next. She came in the morning and she pretty much had a brand new computer because everything was wiped out because, it moves the files and then puts it back. Yeah. It forgot to put it back. And she doesn't know how to go back. She doesn't know what to do. And I'm sure there's many, many stories like that, but those are the exceptions, to the great experience that most people right now probably in our chat room have had. 210 people are in our chat. I'm sure most of them have had a very good experience, but it's the couple here and there that, that's a problem.
Yep.
Especially when you force an upgrade. So what is, has there been any more to this? Has Microsoft stated anything more beyond Friday's announcement of, if you have Skylake, you pretty much have 18 months or whatever. No, they said July, right?
Well, it's like support through July 2017. After that point, I should, these machines are effectively in extended support at that point, right? And what that means is they're just going to get the most critical security updates. That's fine. I honestly, I think for most businesses, that's fine. It's not much of an incentive to go to, to Windows 10. So whatever. I mean, I don't think that's a big deal. I do think there is one sort of remaining issue. Well, I guess there's a remaining question, and then there's a remaining issue. I do sort of wonder about Skylake a little bit. I wonder what happened there. But I also have this kind of thing, or I don't know how to say it. It's like an issue with the Surface team or whatever, the Surface folks. They were very quick out the gate with Skylake hardware.
Maybe they should have waited.
Well, they did what they did. I mean, rather than excuse, I'm not going to excuse it, but that it happened. Yeah. Okay, so they made this decision. It kind of blew up in their face. Here's the thing: there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe 1 million plus people out there who have Surface Pro 4 and Surface Book hardware. These are very expensive devices. Surface Book starts at, I think, $1,500. You could spend $3,200, maybe more, on a fully configured Surface Book system. These things have endemic problems, which are or are not tied to the Silverlight platform, but the Skylake platform rather. They have power management issues. They have the Screen Connect issues, USB, whatever it is. I mean, so here's the thing. I think what Microsoft should do is what Steve Jobs did for the iPhone, right? That they need to have that press conference.
They need to have
something public.
Yeah,
for the iPhone 4 with the antenna gate.
Yeah.
Where they come out and say, we admit there's a problem. Here's what we intend to do to solve it, and here's the time frame for solving it. And here's how we're going to make things right by our customers. And because they've been basically completely silent on this issue. There are people who have warranties running out, or the ability of time to, I should say not really warranties, but the ability to bring it back to the store and return it and exchange it for something else is running out or has run out. I think they should extend warranties. I think that the warranty, at the very least for a Surface Book, should be extended out starting on whatever day everything really is fixed to the full term of the warranty. So giving that person an additional 3, 6, 9 months, however that works out. It's hard to say with what's gone on between Windows 10, Windows 7, Windows 8.1, and Skylake, where we're going to point our blame. But it's very easy with Surface to say where we point our blame because it's on them.
Yeah.
And they haven't communicated what's happening at all. And I think that's a huge mistake.
Now you touched on something earlier. You mentioned that a lot of these issues that people are experiencing with Surface, they're also experiencing it with other PCs.
Yeah, it's not the full slate of problems you see on Surface.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because other PC makers are smart enough not to use those deep sleep states yet because it's broken now in Skylake or whatever. In some cases, the things you're seeing are the things that are just kind of common that anyone with Skylake is probably going to see, like the Intel display driver issues, I'm told are fairly common across other PC types as well. So, look, like I said, my point isn't to assess blame on the technical, whatever. I mean, I'm sure everyone has their reasons and excuses and all that. But at the end of the day, I can't solve this problem for Windows, right? Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, whatever. I don't know. I don't know how that works. But I can tell you, I don't have enough experience on the hardware side. I think I have the experience to point to the Surface guys and say, you really need to step out in front of this one. If you don't do the right thing, you're going to risk the same thing that Microsoft is risking with Windows 10, where they have something good and they're jamming it down people's throats, with Surface, which is you have something good, but because you've shipped something really unreliable, you're going to harm your image forever. And it's impossible to get that stuff back. Every single time that someone goes back to a Microsoft store or Best Buy, wherever they bought it, and returns a Surface Book because the thing can't boot, you've lost that
problem. Yeah, you've lost them
forever.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to fix this. You got to fix it. You got to do right by those people. And that, that's all I can say. I mean, the rest of it, I don't know. I don't know enough about hardware and chipsets and CPUs to kind of, come down from the mountain with the tablets and say, this is what's happening. I don't know, but I do know what they need to do.
And by the way, this is not
Surface.
just Intel. The news wasn't just about Intel. It's also for AMD's next gen chipset also. Or current, whatever it is. I forgot the name.
Is that true? I mean,
it says Windows 10 will only be supported. Windows 10 will be the only supported Windows platform on Intel's upcoming Kaby Lake Qualcomm's upcoming 8996, and AMD's
No, I don't-
upcoming
but-
Bristol Ridge.
That's right, but that doesn't actually mean there's a problem with any of those
No,
chipsets.
no.
You know, like in other words, it's very probable that older versions of Windows will run fine on those things, all of them, including Kaby Lake. I don't know, you know.
Oh, you
but
mean,
I
you
think-
mean the wording of the only supported Windows?
Yeah, it doesn't mean they're not going to work.
Yeah.
It just means Microsoft's not going to officially support it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I was saying before, where this situation, you know, again, regardless of how it happened and who's at fault, et cetera, has given Microsoft an opening to continue jamming Windows 10 down our throats, which is through that thing you just read. Now, because this happened, right, they can say, look, you know what happens when we don't do this. So now going forward, only new Windows, only new hardware. You know, that's how it works.
And the word supported is pretty vague, right? I mean, does it
Yes,
mean that it won't even install? It doesn't mean that Microsoft won't.
Well, they're not going to support it. So in other words, you install Windows 7 on a Kaby Lake PC or something, they're not going to support that. But by the way, that doesn't mean Dell or HP or Lenovo or some other company couldn't support it, assuming you know, the downgrade rights are still available in that time frame. I don't remember what the dates are for everything. Anyway, this is a big change.
A major change, yeah.
We're still digesting it. I mean, I'm just trying to. I guess what I wanted to do today was, I had my opinion with what the facts that I had on Friday. I don't have too many more facts, although I got some interesting information from Mike Nash, and I talked to some other people as well. I wanted to provide a bit more nuanced view. I am no longer. I don't really think that Microsoft did this specifically to, for lack of a better term, I keep saying it this way, you know, jam Windows 10 down anyone's throat, although they have been doing that with other initiatives. I do, however, think it's somewhat ironic that the end game will be the same effect.
Will be the same exact thing, yeah.
You know, this is their opening to say, well, there you go. See, it's all screwed up. So now we're only going to support new hardware with Windows 10. You know, so it's same thing.
I'm sure there's going to be more stories that come out based on this.
I can't believe this is all we've talked about today.
Well, I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
You know, it's a weird time. I mean, the fact that Windows 10 is so successful, it's fascinating because there's a lot of resentment towards Windows 10, and a lot of it doesn't have to do with its functionality. It has to do with the forcefulness. And it's interesting to see that's been a lot of the hoopla that we've seen, is the fact that it's, you know, it's being forced on us. But, you know, look on the Apple side. Nobody's looking to downgrade on Apple's on the Mac. I don't know one person that says, "Oh, screw," you know.
Well, by the way, it
Yosemite.
doesn't matter. Yeah, actually, that's an interesting point. Apple users don't have that choice, right? That's something Microsoft does for business customers primarily. Apple has no concerns along those lines. Even if Apple had like an enterprise support kind of thing going on that was just like Microsoft, they would never really do this because there are no instances of enterprises anywhere that have standardized on Mac OS 10, 10.9 or something, and everything has to be 10.9, and Apple just doesn't have this concern. And so you buy a new iMac, you buy a new MacBook, whatever it is, you're getting the latest version of the OS. And by the way, chances are pretty good. Not as good as an iOS, but chances are pretty good. As these free new upgrades come out, you're just going to get the free new upgrade.
You just either you wait a little bit and then you do it. But I don't know anybody that has bought a Mac and said, "Oh crap, it came with El Capitan, and I want to put Maverick on this thing."
No, and you know, and
it doesn't exist in that world.
Yeah, so they've kind of gone out of their way to support these kind of crazy capabilities. You know, downgrading. What a weird thing, you know, to have to offer companies, but companies demand it and they want it, and so Microsoft does it because Microsoft can't stop trying to please people all the time. In some ways, the situation that we're heading toward is the more reasonable situation. We're only going to support new hardware with the latest version of Windows. I think, you know, we got to it through a convoluted and terrible path, but we got to it, and I think that's the important.
I mean, really, the reality is the PC is the only platform that concept of downgrading exists. You can't buy an iPhone and say, I want to put, you know, iOS 7 on this thing. You can't buy an Android. I mean, you could with Android if you root it and you do whatever you want, but nobody is downgrading their version of Android. Nobody is downgrading their version of Windows Phone. This concept only exists on the PC side. And this may be how how Microsoft gets with the times.
Yeah.
The notion of downgrading
Right.
It's listen.
It's
I get it. I
contrary-
get
it's
it. I get why
contrary, yeah.
people do it. I understand why people do it. But it's the only. It only exists in the PC market. Nobody else is doing that.
Right. And so, we all sort of inherently understand that it makes sense to keep digital devices upgraded to the latest version because those things are more secure. And not just new features, like they're more secure, they're safer, and all that kind of stuff. There's some sense to it. We don't get there with PCs because PCs have been around a long time, and we're kind of set in our ways with PCs. And but you've always done this way. I mean, I think for PCs to move into this 21st century in many ways, they need to be managed more like, be used more like, and be updated more like mobile devices. And that's a big chunk of what they're trying to do with Windows 10.
I mean, I think this comes with the foundation of PCs, right? It's a pain in the ass to upgrade your operating system. It's always been a pain in the ass. It's not this easy. Do you want to upgrade? Yes, here you go. And it does it, and there you go. Now it's the latest and the greatest. This is the first time that it's semi easy.
Right.
For 30 years, this has been the process. It's difficult to do an upgrade on a PC, especially for someone that is a layman, that is the common man that is just using their laptop for everyday stuff. People do not go out and buy Windows updates, latest version of the Windows operating system every year. It's only a group of people that do it. This is the first time this was done. And you are going to have the hiccup. You are going to have people hanging on for dear life. But
you take the bullet, and
after two generations, after two more operating systems, I don't think that the idea of downgrading is going to be as prominent. Prominent.
Well, yeah, I think I agree. I agree. I think this is going to be the step that kind of gets us to a future that makes a lot more sense, and that includes for businesses as well. I mean, this notion of downgrading, I don't think it goes away completely, but I think by relegating older versions of Windows to, I should say, relegating older versions of Windows to older hardware, you're limiting what anyone can do unless they move forward with the software as well. And there's no way businesses are ever going to upgrade more slowly than they already do. So no harm, no foul there. And I think this will just be better for everyone overall.
Yeah, excellent, Paul. I think we can leave it there. I think that was a very insightful and detailed explanation of everything that happened on Friday. And I wanted to take the time because normally we don't stick to one topic, but there was so much confusion over this and so much anger, and I read your thread, the message, the comments on that post, and boy, some people get it and some people don't, and some people have a really valid opinion on why this is a bad thing or why this is a good thing. So I wanted to kind of concentrate on that because I've heard 4 different explanations, and all 4 have been very different to what you explained.
Well, I set out to kind of find out what happened, and I don't feel that I have the complete answer yet, but I think in talking to some hardware experts and talking to some people in the PC industry, I think I have a more nuanced view than I had on Friday, certainly.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Guys, we're going to do our post show. We're going to talk about some stuff. I asked Paul if he has a throwback for today. I don't know if you have your throwback. Do you?
I do.
Okay, Paul has a throwback. We're going to do our Throwback Tuesday. We're going to talk about something from Tech Past, and we're going to go down memory lane. This is what we do on the post show on What the Talk. If you're watching live, obviously you can continue watching it live. We're going to be on the air for another 15-20 minutes doing that. If you are listening to the podcast and you would love to check it out and give it a try, hey guys, listen. If you go to patreon.com/whatthetech, you could check it out there. It is for funders. It's our Patreon campaign. So you can fund us anything. Anything you want to fund us, you could do it, and you can get access to it. If you like it, great. If you don't have to sign up again next month. So it's open for everybody. All right, guys. You can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Darren. You can follow Paul at The Rod. I'm sure Paul's going to have a lot more details regarding this topic in the coming weeks. And the more stuff that happens, the more Paul's going to be posting on therot.com. Paul also does a phenomenal podcast called Windows Weekly. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. On the Twit Network, every Wednesday at 2 p.m. East. You can check that show out with Leo Laporte and Mary Jo Foley. I'm supposed to go get a beer with Mary Jo next week.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'm coming to New York for a couple of days soon.
When?
I think it's like the first week of February.
And you didn't even tell me.
I just found out today.
Today. Yeah, well, you could have messaged me. You could have told me.
I did. Okay, it's not even in my calendar yet. I was
So
busy
upset.
with other stuff.
So upset. Well, I guess you're gonna see Mary Jo also. So
and you.
I don't know. Maybe I won't come. I was
You know
left
what?
out of this
You know
one.
what? I just literally. I told you before I told her.
Oh, good. Now I feel a lot better.
So.
All right, guys. We'll see you all next week. Take care.